Welcome to Deadly Secrets. Subscribe and hit the bell icon to follow more true crime cases that will leave you stunned. He got promoted the day after she spent the night with her boss. 2 weeks later, he was found dead, half naked in a motel room, a bullet through his chest, and her fingerprints on the doorknob. She said she did it for love. He left behind a video that said otherwise. This is not just a story about ambition. It's about betrayal so deep. It made a man destroy everything, including himself. Stay with me. Because once you hear what she traded, you'll ask yourself the same question we did. Was it worth it? Ethan Turner was the kind of man who never asked for much. He wore the same scuffed-up leather shoes to work for 3 years straight, drove an old Chevy Impala that wheezed in the cold, and still called his mom every Sunday without fail. In his success wasn't measured in job titles or luxury vacations. It was about loyalty, about keeping promises. And the biggest promise he ever made was to Ashley. Ashley Lynn Turner, née Harper, the kind of woman who walked into a room like she already owned it. Smart, fearless, a little manipulative when she needed to be. Theirs was a marriage built on resilience, long hours, second jobs, late-night ramen dinners while paying off debt. But they believed in each other. Ethan had a dream to one day run the analytics division at Hampton & Rowe, a regional firm with national ambition. Ashley had another to never be poor again. In February 2022, Ethan was up for promotion. He'd been working 70-hour weeks, taking the lead on impossible projects, getting in early, staying late. Everyone at Hampton & Rowe respected him, except one person, his boss, Darren Lawton. Darren was slick, powerful, and knew it. Mid-40s, divorced twice, no kids, no filters. He ran the department like a mini-kingdom, and his promotions came with a price. Sometimes that price was discretion. Other times, it was Ashley. It started with an invitation, a private networking dinner at Darren's country club. Ethan couldn't go. He had a deadline. So Ashley offered to attend in his place. "I'll just smile. Make a good impression," she said. "You deserve this job, babe." But that night, Ashley didn't come home. The next morning, she returned with red eyes and a story she'd stayed at a friend's place after drinking too much. Ethan said nothing, but in his gut, something tore. 2 days later, Ethan got the promotion. And from that moment on, nothing was the same. He stopped shaving, missed team meetings, started sleeping in the guest room. His coworkers thought he was just stressed. Ashley called it burnout. But deep down, Ethan knew what had happened. He just couldn't say it out loud. Until April 9th? That morning, housekeeping at the West Point Motel found Ethan Turner's body. Room 112, no signs of forced entry. 1 bullet to the chest, a small blood smear on the bathroom sink, and on the nightstand, his wedding ring. Oh my God! What the hell had happened? Police found Ashley just 3 hours later, sitting in their kitchen in the same clothes from the night before, silent, staring. And when they asked her why she hadn't reported Ethan missing, she simply said, "I thought he needed space." But detectives were already skeptical, especially when forensics revealed Ashley's fingerprints on the motel door handle. Then came the voicemail, left on Ethan's phone, from Ashley. 10 hours before his death. "I know you hate me. I would too. But I swear, I only did what I did for you. I just wanted to help you. I'm sorry. I wish I could undo it. I wish I could be the woman you thought I was." Jesus! This wasn't just a domestic dispute. It was unraveling into something far darker and far more deliberate. Because what Ethan didn't know was that Ashley hadn't just gone to dinner with Darren. She had spent the entire night in a luxury suite at the Omni Hotel booked under Darren's corporate card, and someone had the photos to prove it. So the real question became, was this a crime of passion? Or a carefully crafted plan to rid herself of a husband who'd lost his worth? Either way, one thing was clear. Ethan Turner was dead. And the truth was about to get messy. Detective Carmen Ruiz's first instinct was simple: follow the timeline. When Ethan's body was found in that cheap motel room, shirtless, shoeless, curled in a fetal position, the coroner had pegged time of death between 2:00 a.m. and 4:00 a.m. But what caught her attention wasn't the death itself, it was what happened before. Ashley had told officers that Ethan left the house the night before to clear his head. But phone records said otherwise. At 9:12 p.m., he'd texted her, "I'm going to meet Wallace. We need to talk." Wallace? Ethan's boss. The same man Ashley had slept with. Oh my God. Detective Ruiz pressed play on the security footage from Wallace Systems HQ. And there he was, Ethan Turner, walking through the glass doors at 9:47 p.m. No hesitation, no fear, just a man with purpose. He walked in, but he never walked out. That's when the story began to unravel. Ashley had painted a picture of a man who was broken, distant, distracted. She told police Ethan had been drinking again, that he struggled with depression, that he had a tendency to spiral. But Ruiz found no alcohol in his system, no signs of self-harm, no history of mental breakdowns. So why lie? That's what gnawed at Ruiz. She returned to the Turner home, this time with a warrant. Inside Ethan's office, a cramped back room with a single window and a warping desk, she found journals, stacks of them. Yellowed pages filled with small, precise handwriting. Ruiz picked one up. The entry, dated 3 weeks prior, sent a chill down her spine. "I didn't ask her to do this. I didn't beg. She offered, said she'd do anything to help me get promoted, and now I can't look at her the same. Every time I close my eyes, I see it. I hear it." Jesus Christ. Ethan had known. He knew Ashley had slept with Wallace, and not just known, he'd carried it, like a tumor in his chest, for weeks. Ruiz flipped further through the pages. Rage, betrayal, pain. But not violence. Ethan wasn't planning revenge. He was trying to forgive her. Why didn't Ashley mention that? In the kitchen, Ruiz opened the trash and saw something odd, the remnants of shredded paper, still damp, like they'd been soaked before disposal. She reconstructed what she could and saw the words "termination of employment, sexual harassment," signed voluntarily. Ashley had filed a complaint against Wallace, but no one at the company had mentioned it. Holy hell. Ruiz called HR at Wallace Systems. They stonewalled her, but after a subpoena. The truth came out. Ashley had met with HR just 2 days before Ethan's death. She told them Wallace coerced her into sleeping with him, that she feared retaliation, that she wanted to end the NDA she'd signed under pressure. The same day, Ethan texted Wallace to talk. And now both men were dead. The pieces were aligning, but not cleanly. There was too much silence in Ashley's timeline. Where was she between 10:00 p.m. and 3:00 a.m.? She said she was home, alone, watching Netflix, but there were no viewing logs. No neighbors had seen her. And the home's front door security system disabled at 10:06 p.m., re-enabled at 3:17 a.m. When Ruiz asked Ashley about the gap, she blinked twice, then said, "I was asleep. I don't know what you're implying." Ruiz didn't push, not yet, but her gut screamed otherwise. Because women lie, men lie, but the dead don't lie, and Ethan Turner had left behind more than just scribbled thoughts. He left behind secrets. Secrets that smelled like bleach, burned like guilt, and wouldn't stay buried for long. Ashley sat across from Detective Ruiz in the sterile white interview room, her fingers fidgeting with the sleeve of her cardigan. She looked smaller than she had a week ago, paler, less defiant. The silence between them was thick, almost sacred. Ruiz didn't speak at first. She just slid a manila envelope across the table. Ashley stared at it, didn't open it. Then Ruiz said, slowly, "You filed a sexual harassment complaint against Darren Wallace 2 days before your husband died, but you never told us that." Ashley swallowed, hard, her lips parted, then closed again.
"I was scared," she finally whispered. "I thought if I stayed quiet, this would all just go away."
"What would go away?" Ruiz pressed. Ashley looked up. Her eyes glistened, but there were no tears. Everything she said, the lies, the shame, Ethan, he changed after that night. He was never the same again. "Did he blame you?" "No," she said, then softer. That was the worst part. He didn't blame me. He just looked at me like I was someone else. Ruiz opened the envelope, laid out the contents slowly. Photos, screenshots, the signed HR complaint, surveillance stills of Ethan walking into Wallace's office. And finally, a copy of Ethan's journal page, the one that ended with, "I can't live in this house anymore. It feels like a coffin." Ashley read it. Her mouth quivered. "You didn't kill him," Ruiz said, "but someone did, and you're lying to protect them." Ashley flinched, but didn't deny it. "I need to know," Ruiz said. "Where were you that night, really?" Ashley exhaled, long and slow. "At the marina," she whispered, "by the river, alone." Ruiz narrowed her eyes. "You turned off the security system." "I had a panic attack. I needed to leave. I thought Ethan would be gone all night. He'd left before, stayed in hotels. I didn't expect." She stopped. "You didn't expect him to end up dead," Ruiz said quietly. Ashley nodded. There was a long pause. Then Ruiz leaned forward. Her voice dropped. "Was it Darren?" Ashley hesitated. "I don't know." "Did he threaten you?" Ashley didn't answer. But Ruiz saw it, that flicker in the eyes, the smallest flinch. That's when she knew Ashley might not have pulled the trigger, but she was deep in the middle of something bigger. And it was time to pull the threads. Darren Wallace was the kind of man who thought rules were for other people. And for years, he'd been right. Settlements, NDAs, a trail of quiet scandals that never made it to court. But Ruiz wasn't some corporate lawyer. She was a detective. And she had subpoenas. Wallace's financial records told a story: hush payments, transfers to shell companies. One in particular caught her eye: Easton LLC, registered in Delaware, with one listed consultant named Thomas Graves. Thomas Graves, as it turned out, had a record, not for murder, for cleanup, for cover-ups, for containment. He was a fixer. And guess what? His cell phone pinged at the same motel Ethan was found less than 2 hours before time of death. Boom! Now they were getting somewhere. But it still didn't explain everything. Why would Wallace hire a fixer after Ashley had already filed a complaint? Why kill Ethan? Unless it wasn't about revenge. It was about silence. Maybe Wallace knew Ethan was going to go public. Maybe the talk that night wasn't just a private confrontation, it was leverage. Maybe Ethan had proof, and Wallace needed to erase him before the board found out. But if that was true, where was the proof? And more importantly, Why was Ashley still protecting the man who may have ordered her husband's murder? The text came at 2:41 a.m. A burner number, no contact name, just 4 words. He died for you. Ashley stared at the message until the screen dimmed. Her pulse thudded in her ears. She was in the kitchen, barefoot, wrapped in an old robe, the house bathed in blue moonlight. Ethan had been dead for 8 days. She didn't cry, not anymore. She just locked the phone, walked to the sink, and threw up bile. Ruiz would later trace the burner phone's last ping near a warehouse on the east side of town, adjacent to the river, a known spot for off-the-books meetings. And Wallace's name had shown up in city records, linked to a now-defunct shipping company that leased space there. Too convenient. Ruiz began pulling every thread she could: phone towers, surveillance logs, financial trails. She knew this wasn't a random death. This was surgical, controlled, a silencing. But she didn't yet have a weapon. Until she got a call from a woman named Nina Kyle. Nina used to work at Wallace Systems. She'd been fired 2 years earlier after filing a complaint that mysteriously disappeared from HR logs. Her story matched Ashley's. The same pressure, the same offer, the same promise of career advancement in exchange for silence. But Nina hadn't gone through with it. She'd walked away. "You want dirt on Wallace," she told Ruiz. "Start with his cabin." Cabin. Up in McAllister County, private, off the grid. No cameras, no records. That's where he took people, when he didn't want them to be found. Ruiz's blood ran cold. 3 hours later, she and a state trooper were breaking open the front door of a secluded log cabin off Route 27. The place reeked of bleach and mildew. And the basement, Jesus Christ, the basement. Plastic sheeting of the walls, zip ties, empty bottles of sedatives, and in a locked trunk, a second burner phone. On it, dozens of photos. Ashley, Ethan, Darren Wallace, all captured from a distance, dated, tagged, tracked. And in the deleted files folder, a 6-second video clip. Ethan, tied to a chair, blinking hard under flickering light, a voice behind the camera muffled, but unmistakable. "Wallace, you think you're going to take me down. You think your little wife didn't sell you out from day one." Then silence. The clip cut off. But it was enough. Enough for conspiracy to commit murder. Enough for kidnapping. Enough to bring the whole damn empire crashing down. Ruiz walked into Wallace Systems that afternoon with 6 unmarked officers and a warrant. Wallace was in the middle of a boardroom presentation. She put him in cuffs before he even had time to reach for his water. "Am I under arrest?" he barked. "No," Ruiz said. "You're under investigation. But let's be honest, you've been under for years." Wallace's lawyer screamed harassment, accused the department of fabricating evidence, but Ruiz didn't care. She had the phone, she had the cabin, she had Nina. And she had Ashley's silence. Because Ashley still hadn't told the full truth. Not yet. But Ruiz was getting closer. The trial began on a cold Monday morning, nearly a year after Ethan Turner's death. The courtroom in downtown Houston was packed. Journalists, family members, curious onlookers. Everyone wanted to hear the sordid details. Ashley sat at the defense table, wearing a navy blazer, her hands clasped tightly. Her once warm expression had hardened into a blank mask. The prosecution opened strong. The state laid out a timeline, weaving together surveillance footage, cell phone pings, and witness testimony. But the most damning piece was the motel receptionist. He remembered Ashley checking in. Nervous, glancing around like she was afraid someone might follow. Her name wasn't on the registry. It was a fake ID. The prosecution argued this wasn't just a tragic accident or a moment of self-defense. It was premeditated, cold, calculated, and all because Ethan found out the truth.
"Oh my God," someone whispered in the gallery when the prosecutor held up a photo of Ethan's lifeless body. Blood pooled around his neck, his wedding ring still on. The DA's voice cut like glass. She stabbed him. Not once, but 3 times. Not in fear, not in panic, but with purpose. Then came the twist text messages between Ashley and her boss. Explicit. Calculated. One even read, "He's so weak. All he wants is to be someone. I gave him what he wanted. Now he'll give me what I deserve." That message was sent just hours before Ethan was found dead. The jury looked shaken. Even some of Ashley's friends in attendance avoided her eyes. The prosecution rested. Silence hung thick in the courtroom. Then it was the defense's turn. They painted a different picture, a woman pushed too far. A woman trapped in a marriage with a man who controlled her finances, belittled her, and according to Ashley once hit her during an argument. The defense claimed the night at the motel wasn't betrayal. It was a trap. Her boss had pressured her, threatened her job. Ashley's attorney looked directly at the jury. She didn't want to cheat. She didn't want to hurt her husband. She thought she was doing what was best for their future. But then came Ethan. He had followed her, and, according to Ashley, when he saw them together, he snapped. The knife wasn't planned. Her lawyer argued it was defense. The room was split. Some nodded slowly. Others frowned. But the cross-examination cracked the story open. The prosecutor played audio from a jailhouse phone call between Ashley and her sister. In it, Ashley laughed about how stupid Ethan had been to believe she still loved him, laughed about how easy it was to get away with it. When the recording ended, the courtroom was stunned. Not even Ashley's attorney could look at her. The damage was done, and the jury knew it. The verdict came on a Thursday afternoon. The air in the courtroom was razor thin. Ashley stood as the foreperson read the decision, her knees trembling, her jaw locked tight. The jury, find the defendant, Ashley Lynn Turner, guilty of second-degree murder." There was no gasp, no shouting, just a single exhale, collective, like the room had been holding its breath for days. Ashley blinked slowly. She didn't cry. She didn't collapse. She just looked down at the floor like she had known this was coming all along. The judge thanked the jury, then turned to Ashley with a voice heavy with finality. "Sentencing will be held in 2 weeks. Until then, you will remain in custody." And just like that, the woman who once stood in candlelight holding Ethan's hand at their wedding was led away in cuffs. It should have been the end. But it wasn't. Not even close. 2 nights before sentencing, a prison nurse walked into the medical wing and found Ashley in her cell sitting, not sleeping, staring at the wall. On the cot beside her was a notebook, open, written in blue ink. Page after page was a full confession. But it wasn't what anyone expected. Ashley admitted to the affair, to the motel, to knowing Ethan was following her that night. But she didn't kill him. She said when Ethan stormed into the motel room, she screamed. Her boss, Darren Wallace, panicked. There was a struggle. And Wallace stabbed him. Twice. The 3rd wound. That came later. Ashley wrote that Wallace forced her to stab Ethan after he was already dead so that if anything came out, she'd be tied to it too. "So I'd stay quiet," she wrote, "so I'd carry the shame." The notebook included dates, specifics, details only someone in the room could have known. The defense team submitted it immediately. The state balked. They said it was desperation, a last-minute fabrication.
But Ruiz
Wasn't so sure, because there were two things in that confession she hadn't released to anyone: the bruising pattern on Ethan's wrist
and the blood smear on the motel lampshade.
Ashley mentioned both exactly. It was enough to reopen the case.
Enough to trigger a new investigation.
Wallace, by then, had disappeared.
Resigned from his company.
Liquidated assets. Fled the country. But Ruiz didn't stop.
She chased bank records, border crossings, private flight manifests.
And finally, nearly 4 months after Ashley's conviction,
Interpol flagged a man in Argentina using a Canadian passport under the name Daniel Cross. Fingerprint match.
Darren Wallace.
He was extradited to Texas, placed under arrest, and charged with first-degree murder.
Ashley's sentence was reduced. Not erased, but reduced. 10 years.
She served 7.
She now lives in a small town outside of Lubbock, under a different name.
She teaches yoga, volunteers at a shelter, wears a ring on a chain around her neck, the one Ethan gave her on their 5th anniversary. When asked by a reporter if she still loved him, she didn't answer.
She just smiled, then walked away. Years passed.
Ethan Turner became a name etched into headlines, into court transcripts, into the memories of those who watched the trial unfold like a slow-burning car crash. But in Ashley's quiet neighborhood in Lubbock, no one spoke his name, not even Ashley.
She didn't talk about the trial. She didn't talk about Wallace.
She just existed, soft, small, and almost invisible. Until one night in late October, nearly a decade after it all ended, Ashley received a letter.
No stamp, no return address, just her name written in shaky black ink.
Inside a photo. It was Ethan, not the corpse, not the crime scene. But a photo she hadn't seen in years, maybe ever. He was sitting at a park bench, holding a paper cup of coffee. His smile was crooked. His eyes were tired but kind.
On the back, scribbled in pencil, "I believed you."
Ashley dropped to her knees in the kitchen, shaking. She called no one. She said nothing. She just held the photo against her chest, curled up on the cold tile floor, and cried. Maybe Ethan had prepared it ahead of time. Maybe someone else found it in his things and sent it years later. Maybe it was someone's sick joke. Or maybe it was real. Either way, it was the last time Ashley was ever seen. She didn't show up to her yoga classes, didn't answer her door. When police entered her house, they found her belongings, her clothes, her car keys, all in place. But she was gone. The photo, too, had vanished. No signs of struggle, no blood, no prints. Just the faint smell of lavender in the air. And a single note left on the counter. No one gets to rewrite the ending, not even me. To this day, her disappearance remains unsolved. Some say she ran. Some say Wallace had a final card to play. And some say Ethan came back for her.